Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter, that is Connor. We talk about movies on this show, and we are returning to a franchise that we've been working through over the past, I don't know, 5, 6 months, something like that. Finally, kind of closing it off just in time for the new entry coming up in a couple of weeks, and that is where we're going to go talk about Predators, the latest entry in the Predator franchise until The Predator in a couple of weeks. I have to admit, I hate these names. I really just wish it was Predator 3 and 4. That would just make life much easier for me, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Bunch
feel
of
like movie
bastards.
studios are just so scared of putting numbers at the end of sequels now because they want people to be almost be tricked into thinking they can come and watch it without seeing the previous films. And I'm just like, just
I mean, you probably can with
well,
this
yeah,
one.
this one you probably can, but I would still rather it be called Predator 4.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying, at least I can see the logic on this one. There are some of them where I'm like, no, 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 no. I am not accepting that this is not number three, of whatever series.
And you get Fast and the Furious, these weird naming things. And as much as I get the Predator as a thing, and I get why this is called Predators because it's obviously a play on the fact that Aliens was called Aliens. As much as I get that,
Yeah.
and it felt exciting enough at the time, although I'll go into why I think the name is disingenuous once we talk about the movie. Um, it's still just frustrating. Just call it Predator 3, please. I call it Predator 4.
Yeah.
Not that this is the only franchise guilty of that. Almost all of them are guilty of this now.
It's gotten worse as we've gone on, and it's seeped over into video games too.
Yes, yes. Also annoying. I just hope though they don't do the thing that video games have started doing, where they just kind of go back to the original name, even though it's actually not like a remake. But,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awful, and it's a fresh take on the franchise. It's like again, it's what the Predator's
yeah,
doing,
but
right?
just take for example God of War. It's just called God of War, but it's not a remake of the first game. It's not like yeah, it's just a fresh jumping on point for people who didn't play the old ones, but it still has all the continuity of the past games in it.
Yeah, no, it is the equivalent of the Predator
Yeah,
coming up in a week or two, being just called Predator.
yes, but I would argue that just
That
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 adding
that
the
would be
word
the
"that"
same.
is not enough.
It's not enough, but it's better.
I mean, yeah, but I give shit for Fast and Furious after the Fast and the Furious. Like, so I'm not letting this away with it either.
Do you know what? I think that way round is actually worse because at least okay, you had that, and then this in context, the Predator tells me what it's doing, right? It's okay, we're focusing on one. It's about this thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So contextually, that at least I can reason it. The Fast and Furious to just Fast and Furious. What? No, I don't know. Other than just, oh, we want it to be shorter.
I just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then so on. Should it be required? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
It rarely is required, but
Just give them
sometimes.
numbers. It's fine. They don't scare people like you think they do. I mean, maybe I'm just a bit OCD and I like the neat numbering. And don't even get me started on franchises that start in, regular numbers and switch to Roman numerals halfway through. I'm looking at you, Friday the 13th. I'm looking at you.
Do you know what? I just want to butt in here with a tweet that I saw the other day, and you reminded me because speaking of just using numberings, I thought, you know how you like ranking things so much to the point where we have some
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
countdowns coming up. Well, I saw a thing on Twitter that apparently ranking things is a very manly thing. It's something that only men do. Like, it is associated as and I'm like, does it make you feel like that's the manliest thing you can do? Like, oh, that's it. That's the thing that makes you look manly. It's like, oh, I do rankings.
I mean, that and peeing standing up, I think, are the two mainly things I do.
Yeah, but the thing is, every man does that. So it's not like manly, against other men to do it. Whereas, I mean, I don't know if it still is, but for a long time, your name on Twitter was the
No,
Listmaster.
no, it still is.
Well, there you go. It's like you're taking pride in it.
I no one should take me taking pride in list making as me trying to be machismo in any way. Let me just point this out.
I think that's what it is. I think you secretly you've known about this the whole time. I've only stumbled onto this week. I think you've known, and this has been your way of going, hey. check it out.
If there's one thing I have never been, it's someone to try and flaunt my manliness. Right?
Oh, I'm aware.
It's just not my thing. I'm not a fan of such machismo, toxic masculinity. I don't think list making falls under that category. Thank you very much. It is a nice.
Well, according to a certain
Well, they
subsect
can
of Twitter,
piss
it
off.
does.
It is a gentle expression of order.
Do you know, it came up because someone went, "Oh, hey, like, what's your favorite James Bond? What's your favorite Doctor?" And people are like, "It's only men that feel the need to answer these questions." Like, and like you already have an answer. I mean, you don't for James Bond because you don't care, but
No.
you've got one in your head.
Well, I kind of do. Timothy Dalton, but not because of James Bond, just because I like him the most outside of James Bond.
I mean, that's fair. Timothy Dalton's great.
It's basically Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is why I like Timothy Dalton, and that's why he's picked.
And Chuck.
Oh, that's
He
true.
was
That's
cool
true.
with
Chuck too. Favorite Doctor. I mean, that's with Doctor Who. I've only been watching since 2005, so I don't have any opinion on the old ones.
Let's be honest. So have most
That's
people.
true. Yes. And I enjoy it. I don't like it enough to watch all the old stuff. I'm not into it that much to go back.
Didn't check out any of that Twitch marathon a couple of months back.
Well, this might shock you, but I didn't have the schedule to just sit down at the start and watch from the beginning and keep going.
No, and you couldn't
Oh, of
dare
course
just jump
not.
in at a random
That's
episode
madness.
because that would hurt you.
I can't do that.
What would it feel like? Because obviously there are still a number of missing episodes of Doctor Who because of the BBC's.
Well, which is why
awfulness
it's
in
never
the
happening.
80s.
I'm never watching them.
Does that genuinely impact your decision here? It's like if they were all there, you might consider.
Yeah, honestly, I think it bugs me. I think it bugs me that there's just missing episodes. I can't be having it.
Fair
It's
enough.
just it's wrong. But we've tangented somewhat from Predators,
Yeah,
which will
should we
start
talk about
spoiler free
Predators?
for the record, and we'll give you warnings somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers. We're actually like 7 minutes into this, and we've barely mentioned the film at hand. Outside of the title being annoying, it's not even. It's not.
Yeah, I mean that was a good.
It's not annoying
2 or
on
3
its own,
minutes.
admittedly, because again, it's calling back to aliens. But now that we have a Predators, and the Predator, it's a little bit obnoxiously confusing.
It's indicative of a larger problem, isn't it?
But regardless, so we're done with Predators. Just to sum up the feelings, because we've done all the films up until now. That's including the AVP films. Predator, love. Predator 2, love. AVP, mediocre to bad to terrible. Alien vs Predator Requiem, terrible to atrocious to abysmal to not quite uvable, but not a million steps away either.
Yeah. It's not quite that bad, but
It's pretty bad.
Pretty
The
bad.
film's too goddamn dark to even make out what's happening. That's a pretty big problem in a motion picture.
No, it is. Also, I didn't like Predator
You
as
don't,
much as
but
you
I'm
did.
just summing up my thoughts. You're not as much into Predator, but you didn't. You like it more than the AVP films.
Yeah, but I'm pretty much in
Right.
line with you on the rest.
But so here's Predators. So obviously after 2 awful AVP films, I remember going to see this. By the way, I'm shocked this is 8 years old now. Right, I was like 2010. Shit, this has been a while. And I went to see this in the theater. I was all excited. I guess see a Predator film. In the theaters, which I didn't even do with AVP because.
Dodged the bullet there,
I don't
didn't
know
you?
why. You think I'd be stupid enough when I was 15 to go see AVP, but somehow I still didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know. But I think just subconsciously, I just knew deep down not to do it. But I went to see Predators, and obviously went in with a lot of baggage because it was like, okay, we've had good movies, we've had bad movies. I care about the franchise, what they're doing with this, and then calling it Predators obviously draws comparisons to Aliens because okay, this is what you want to do, and it had a very misleading trailer, might I add as well. There was a shot in the trailer that was filmed just for the trailer where the laser sight, the 3-dot laser sight appears on Adrien Brody, and then a second one appears, and a third one, and then it was like 10 of them all aiming at him, again implying there's going to be like an army of these Predators. There's only technically 4. There's 4 in the movie, but 3 main ones.
Yeah.
Which isn't. I mean, that's not a problem in itself. I'm just saying the trailer was a bit misleading. I was waiting because because once I got halfway through the movie and there wasn't that many predators yet, I thought, oh, that's the ending. That's the final shot. Is
No, I think expectations do alter your experience. And you went in with the expectation of, oh, we're getting a lot
do you
of
know the funny
predators,
thing is,
right?
expectations don't bug me that much. I feel like expectations don't usually affect my enjoyment 99 times out of 100. This was just one particular case where that shot was the money moment of the trailer. That was the moment. That was the moment where they realized they were screwed. And I was like, where is it? Where's this moment in the movie?
No, I think expectations can affect me a lot while I'm watching it. Once I sit back and reflect afterwards, they're less important. Once I think about, okay, what it actually was, would I want to watch it again?
So one of the things that struck me watching this now, having not seen it probably since maybe 2011, maybe I watched it again about a year later. Which, by the way, when I fired in the Blu-ray for this, I got a trailer for the A-Team movie, which.
Oh boy!
But hey,
now that's what I saw.
As did I think. Did I? I think I did. I definitely saw it. I mean, my memory's hazy on where I saw it, but so is how many faces in this that I know now that I didn't know at the time. I mean, Mahershala Ali. I'll say his name properly one of these days.
Yeah, well, you got a few months till True Blood's back.
Which, by the way, I struggle with his name, and he was credited with a much longer first name on this movie, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce because I'm just going to butcher it. Yeah, I'm just going to butcher it. It'll sound like I'm making noises. He's got this. It's like 3 times as long as the name we know him as now. So it makes sense why he shortened it. But so when he first appeared in this, you don't see him quite at first because he's sort of struggling with someone else. You don't really see his face, and then I finally saw his face. Like, wait, is that Ali? What? Is he in this? And I was like, oh, that's him. Okay. Alright. And Danny Trejo, I knew who he was. I knew who Laurence Fishburne were. And Adrien Brody, who was kind of a weird casting choice when he was announced. It was like, he's the leader in the new Predator movie? Okay, that's interesting. Topher Grace is there. Walton Goggins. I think I was watching The Shield by then. I think I knew who Walton Goggins was. I think I was excited by Walton Goggins' inclusion at the time.
Fair enough. I've never watched The Shield, but I'm familiar with him.
He's been in more stuff now. He's been around.
Yeah.
He's typecast as the asshole character. Usually super racist and super sexist. That's usually his character.
I feel like we saw him in something maybe 6 months ago, not super long ago.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Did he get?
Oh, I know. I'm thinking he was in Tomb Raider.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Not one of his better roles.
No,
but hey,
no, not gonna hold it against.
So what separates this one from? Because this is back in the jungle again. But what separates it is that it's not on our planet. This is an alien jungle, and our characters. We open the film with them all dropping in parachutes, waking up while they're falling, and like one by one, kind of meeting each other, and then try to figure out, okay, where are we? And it's very apparent quite quickly that most of them seem to be either soldiers or mercenaries or something akin to that skill set, right? They're all kind of in that, and they're very spread out as well. Like, they're from different places. There's a Russian soldier, there's a merc from the US, there's a member of IDF, that's Isabel's character, and then you have a member of the Yakuza, and you have a convict who was on death row, and you have a member of the cartel and Danny Trejo. So you have this mix of like killers, right? And you've got Topher Grace, who's just kind of the odd one out. Well, he says he's a doctor, and I immediately said, "Oh, well, that's his function then. He's the medic as part of the team." That was my initial thought when that was mentioned in the movie. But so they look around and they sort of they realize they're on an alien planet. They realize they're being hunted. They're part of game in this preserve, and of course there's predators kicking around. And from there we go. So that's the basic premise of the film. So clearly harkening back more to the original more than anything else, because it's in a jungle, but with that twist on it that we're not on Earth anymore. So obviously I'd seen this before. You had not. You hadn't seen any of them before until we started watching these. So did you like Predators?
Yeah. I like what it's trying to do. If you describe, that thing that you just said, all these characters, these skill sets, the alien jungle, like all these things, like, okay, that's working for me. but I don't know. It doesn't click together
No,
for
I
me.
don't even necessarily disagree with that. Um, I think it's a lot more forgettable than it should be. There's a couple of
Yeah,
baffling choices that they made with a couple of things that, in particular, stick out to me as being weird. There's a lot of moments I like. I like the general gist of it. Honestly, I think the earlier part of the film when they're just kind of wandering around and they notice in the sky there's like multiple planets and like shit. That's kind of my favorite section.
yeah. I think the early part, like them going around like, oh, that's a pretty poisonous
Mm.
plant, and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of atmosphere there, but I don't know. It loses me.
Elaborate. How does it lose you?
Well, that's the thing. I haven't quite put my finger on it because obviously I just finished this before we started recording, and I don't know because at first when it's the group kind of slowly coming together and discovering the world, I think I like that stuff the most. But as it gets into more of the predators itself and the action, it kind of becomes just a bit
Yeah,
generic.
no. I think the first problem is the director's not exactly that skilled. I feel like the direction's very bland. And one of the things that makes Predator
Yeah,
so good is John McTiernan's direction is. I mean, it's easily the best directed film in the franchise. I mean, I love Predator 2. I know you like Predator 2 more than the first one, but the direction is night and day between the two films. Like that's the one thing Predator 1 clearly has over the second one. Uh,
yeah,
is the
yeah. I can't
direction
argue
is
with that.
really spot on. It's a really it's like a level of direction you don't usually see in your mainstream films. It's very good.
Mm.
It's why when people like try and talk about dumb action movies these days and why you can't leave your brain at the door, it's like no, because they used to be better. They used to be really well directed. That's why they were good. That's why Predator and Die Hard,
Yeah.
both directed by John McTiernan, might I add, are both two of the best action movies of all time because they're goddamn well directed. Alien, James
Aliens.
Cameron, also one of the best action directors ever.
Yeah. Like there's you can't tell me that's a badly directed movie and it's still an action
Absolutely,
blockbuster.
absolutely. There's no excusing something just because it's a blockbuster. But so the direction I think is pretty weak. I think the characters are not that interesting. Um, I think Adrien Brody.
I
It's
think
not obviously he's not a bad actor. He's done had a lot of prestigious work, but he's a dramatic actor. I don't think he has the charisma to pull off this role.
I think the characters start off as interesting, just when they're thrown together and it's this
Hmm.
clash of, okay, here are the different ideas. But because it never actually develops any characters, they just don't
No,
go any further than that. So they get
but here's the
less
thing:
interesting as it
in
goes
the
on.
first movie, like they don't really have like big development for the characters either. But the reason why it works in the first movie is because they start off as this unit, and they're the biggest, the baddest men on the planet, right? And they're so tough. The entire point of the movie is to deconstruct that notion, deconstruct that archetype, and by the end, whittle them down to it's just one on one, and it makes the Predator look a tough
Yeah,
guy because it took all these guys out, and Arnold's only barely mano a mano taking him on. Right, that's kind of how the first movie works, is that it's a deconstruction of that, and that works really well. And I think part of the problem with this is that when I heard the title was Predators, I had just assumed that it was going to mirror the plot of Aliens more than Predator, right? At least in the sense where I expected a team kind of like the Colonial Marines and Aliens storming a Predator ship or base or something.
I think to me, the name just Alien to Aliens is okay. We're going to kind of flip this on its head and do something different.
Yeah, this isn't that different.
And it's not that different. It's a bit different. I mean, it's not the exact same, but it's not
Yeah.
different
Well,
enough
I think
like
that's my
those
point though. I
movies
was
were.
expecting humans hunting predators. Hence the flippage,
Okay.
right? Hence the multiple. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
the other thing is that having multiple predators isn't that big a deal because AVP already did that. As sad as that sounds, but it's
yeah.
true. Like we already saw multiple predators.
Yeah, I've already seen it,
Even the end of
right?
Predator 2 had multiple predators in a scene. So it's not that
Yeah.
weird to see it, right? So it's not as which is why I think only having 3 it's the same number as Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, it's not like we're going, oh my God, there's loads of them out there. Like,
Yeah.
like you are in Aliens, right? Where we've gone from one to
Yeah, so
shit.
and even if that's not, I'm not saying I wanted to have that exact plot. I'm just saying that would have been what I'd expect if it was something else that flipped it on its head or something else that kind of did something completely different with it. Then that'd be cool too. Um, So that's kind of an issue. I think also there's this weird thing where now obviously we went from Arnold and his team to Danny Glover in the second one, but the second one was more the cops in the city, right? And that was kind of like a different type of strength, a different type of warrior, right? It was the urban detective, right?
Yeah.
That made sense to me at the time. But because you're going back to the jungle setting, and because we've picked like all these killers off of Earth as the game, and arguably that's why they're a bit more vicious with these characters. Because obviously the predators on Earth have always had this sense of honor, but they don't kill unarmed people. They don't kill the pregnant women in the second one. They have this code. Whereas here it's a bit more like no, we brought them here. We're going to kill them all no matter what. And maybe it's because they know they're all killers. They've handpicked them because of who they are, and they're deserving of going out like this, if you will. And it's like, okay, all right, that works. The problem is though, is that because this is compared so heavily to the first one, because it's a group of characters in a jungle. I don't feel like I feel like if you're going to do it directly the first one again, you have to up the ante. And I guess yes, there's more predators, but the main characters are not up in the ante. This is not bigger than Arnold and Jesse the Body Ventura and Bill Duke and Carl Weathers and that team. Shane Black, sure, okay, I'll give it to some of them. They're bigger and tougher than Shane Black.
I think it needed some more variety in the skill set because, like I say, they're all assassins, mercenaries, right? They're all killers, and sure that harkens back to the original with they're all soldiers, right? But I think here variety would have made it more interesting.
Yeah, I think variety. I think better characters would have, because I don't have too much of a problem with the plot per se. I actually kind of like that it keeps it simple and just keeps it as a Predator movie, as opposed to trying to do some big wacky, And I know I said I want to see it flipped on its head, and I do at the core concept level. But if you're going to start it like a regular Predator movie, if you're going to say no, it's a group of characters in a jungle, then I don't want them to do anything really weird that'll murky that up. Whereas if they're going to start off by saying no, the premise of this is that we're going to hunt the predators, then cool, they do that movie. But it's a completely different movie at that point. But no, it keeps it straightforward. To me, it feels like kind of like a pretty decent but relatively forgettable sequel to a movie.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the direct-to-video sequel.
Obviously
right?
with a higher budget and obviously bigger names, but
just in just what it's achieving and how it leaves you feeling at the end, going, yeah, that was kind of more of what I liked.
Yeah, the ending doesn't sit necessarily that well with me, and there's like a weird twist at one point, which it fits into like the rules that have been set up, but ultimately just feels a little bit that's just here for shock's sake more than it's anything else. Also, what's weird is that Predator 2 constantly was like aping the structure and like quoting things from the first movie and the music, because there's a lot of music from Predator in this as well. There's a lot of the cues.
Oh yeah, I'd say a little bit too much. I think I've had this complaint in the franchise before, but that theme, even though I really like that the drum theme, and it works here with the return to the jungle, but I think it's overused a bit.
Did you have that complaint with Predator 2? Because Predator 2 uses the whole score.
Yeah, I think I did. I mean, I remember
because
saying
Predator 2 not only used the themes that are in this, they also used because I thought it was weird because this one never quite did the it never did that bizarrely.
Yeah. I gave it more lenience in Predator 2 because it was doing specific moments and using the score as reference. Whereas this felt like, okay, we're just going to use it.
And I thought that was weird. I kept expecting it to go into it, and it never did. And it was actually annoying. It was like blue balling me. It kept never doing the main theme. It did the creepy string stuff from the jungle. It did the drums, but it never did the actual the big bit. And then Predator 2 even used the funeral theme from the first one as well. So it
did. Yeah.
So as much as I wouldn't complain that this uses too much of it, because I think Predator 2 Predator 2 literally just took the entire score and just stretched it to fit.
No, like I said, I think Predator 2 uses it in reference because like we say, it does a lot of apes the structure and moments, right? And it's very intentionally doing that. Whereas this movie isn't. This movie just feels like, oh, hey, you'll recognize this music.
Here's the thing I was getting at, though, is that despite the fact that Predator 2 takes way more from Predator 1 in terms of moments and structure and referencing, it actually bugs me way more in this one when they try to reference the first one. One of them just happened to having a minigun. There's a point later on where Adrien Brody's actually saying, "I'm right here, kill me, I'm right here," and it stuck really out to me as just feeling kind of weird and forced. And what's funny is the one ugly mother effer line that's obviously been repeated a few times. That never stuck. That was always like a sort of cheering moment in the second one, and obviously it's a reference to the first one. But that's the part of the joke is that no, he's having the exact same reaction to seeing him with his mask off. Which you couldn't
Yeah.
have that in this really because they'd already seen a predator with his mask off by the time we got to the point where the bad one's taking his mask off. But like I don't know, like most of the moments where it referenced back to the first one kind of bugged me. With the
It felt a bit like a
it felt like a
checklist.
checklist. It felt like a checklist of referencing. I think ultimately my biggest complaint with Predators, which I think is relatively decent overall, I think it's a fairly easy to watch, if forgettable, sequel.
I don't know if I'd go as far as say decent. I think average. I think it's
Sure.
okay. It's not like it's nothing bad. Like it's not gonna be like, oh, I need to turn this off. But I don't think it ever really goes. Oh, it never makes me go, I want to watch it.
Sure. I mean, whatever. But what I'm saying is that I never really quite understand what the point of it is. Like in terms of the idea, like obviously the point is to make money off a franchise name. I get that. You'd have to tell me that in the comments. What I'm saying is that I never really get what the point is in terms of the script. Like, what was the script trying to do in terms of, oh, I've got this idea for a new Predator movie. Let's do it. Obviously, they've got the ingredients there to maybe do something. We're on an alien planet where we've got these different elements. I think the most promising part, like we said, is this mixed pick of characters. Remember the Yakuza, remember the cartel, all these different personalities. That's an interesting idea, but it never quite sums up to being more than just they still die one by one, and then by the end, we're down to like one or two people versus the.
Yeah, you kind of feel like the assumption is, all right, all these different backgrounds, all this clash of personality and culture. It should be okay. They've got to work together to overcome these things, and win. And it doesn't really
It
do
never
that.
even really hints at it or does anything with it of the sort. It still treats
Yeah,
it kind of like a slasher movie, which the first Predator kind of is as well in the way it picks them off. But again, the first movie is almost subverting the tropes by doing that in that type of movie. Here, it just kind of feels
yeah.
like we're just doing that again without.
It feels like because it's a Predator movie, we've got to pick them off.
Yes,
Whereas I think to make this one different, it should have been maybe more of them survive and work
like I say,
together as
I
a
think it's
group.
decent enough. It's just really forgettable and not anything that's highly. I mean, it's not one you should skip. I think you might as well watch it. It's way better than the two EVP movies.
Yeah, it's better than those,
Yeah,
hands down.
it's just kind of just it exists. It's fine, and no more than that. And that's almost harder to talk about because it's not that interesting. It's not that
It's not, is
interesting.
it?
It's just kind of straightforward, and because I think the third act is mostly really disappointing to me. Is kind of the worst part. I'm not a big fan, even though the idea in general is great. Laurence Fishburne's section of the film, I'm not a big fan of.
No, no. When it first popped up as, oh, Laurence Fishburne's in this, because I'd never seen this before, and I didn't really, I never cared enough about the franchise to follow it before. So I was like, oh, cool, I like him. And then I'm like, okay, okay. And then I found myself checking the time, as you do when it gets to these sorts of sections.
What does that mean? What do you mean when it gets to these sorts of sections?
When you find yourself losing interest in
Oh
a
sure,
section,
but I mean
you kind of check
specifically
the
though,
time.
like the
Like,
problem with Fishburne's section. What
it feels like this
it
weird
does, yeah. That's
detour
what I was
in the
getting
in the
at.
movie.
I was getting specifically at why it's a problem
Yeah,
because the idea when he first appears is decent. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, what can we do with this? But then it just kind of feels like a weird thing. And I think the biggest, as much as I didn't like it, it's over too quick to feel like it has any proper impact.
yeah, it has to go either one way or the other. Either we just don't really need it, you can cut most
Yes.
of it out, or you have to go much further with it. And I think that's why I found myself, checking the time with it because it got to a point where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, where are we going with this? How long
No,
are we
it's
spending on
it's
this?
over relatively quickly. It doesn't feel like it has that much impact overall. Outside of here's another hurdle in the overall treacherous journey to deal with for our
Mm.
characters, and I think the other thing is the main character, Brody's character, is he's very like he's supposed to be this guy who, unlike Arnold in the first film, is willing to like use his fellow comrades here. I mean, obviously they're not a unified team because they're all these different people from different backgrounds, but he seems to be willing to just like use people as bait, and he's very cold, and that's fine. And obviously the arc of the film then you would assume is that by the end of the film maybe he won't be as cold, maybe he'll have grown into an ally, a comrade, and someone who will stand up for the person next to him. That is clearly the arc that you could go for. I think the problem is though, is I think pulling off that character outside of the writing of actually getting the arc done properly, which I'd argue it doesn't really do either, is I feel like you need an actor who has enough charisma in this type of role so that you still like them even though they're kind of a dickhead.
Yeah, they've got to be charming while they're being a prick.
Whereas he's just kind of been a dickhead, and I appreciated the idea because it is different that the lead character is a bit of a dickhead. Who's throwing the others under the bus. Like I'm kind of okay with that idea. Again, it's a little bit different. It's just playing with the formula a little bit. I feel like that kind of sums up the movie as a whole. There's lots of little things that are kind of almost in little ways flipping it on its head, but they never quite go far enough to flip it.
Yeah, I think in concept, I love this movie. In execution, it's just okay.
Like between his character being a dickhead, between the idea of being on the alien planet, the idea of a survivor, Laurence Fishburne's character, who's been there for a while. In terms of all these ideas, there's all these things that I see potential in, and ultimately it kind of just washes through them for what feels like a sort of generic action sci-fi movie with them running around and dodging blasts and try to kill things. And there's even an idea in the third act which sounds like it could be amazing, but amounts to very little and is over very quickly.
Yeah, I think we should probably give the spoiler one.
All right, full spoilers then. Full spoilers for Predators. So eventually, obviously we're on an alien planet. How do we get off? Oh, they come in a ship. They've got a ship nearby. All right, we can't fly that, but the one predator that we found that was tied up, that the other predators don't like. There's as Fishburne puts it, there's a blood feud between different types of predator. And the one that's tied up is more like the classic predator. He looks like the predator in the first film, whereas the new ones all kind of look a bit bigger, a bit bulkier. One's got like tusks on his mask, one's got like extra jaws, all these things. Which is fine. I like being able to distinguish them. I don't want them all to look the exact same. I want to be able to say that one's that character and so on.
No, I agree. It's not like Alien, right, where they're all like the same thing.
Although that said, there is that neat thing, and is it the fourth one where one gets like the cross hatching, and you can tell it's that one the entire movie. That was a nice touch. I like that. There was like a rival alien. There was like one specific one.
No, that was nice. But here with the Predators, they've been shown to be unique since the start, so they should look unique enough.
So
at least
he has this plan to free this Predator. And, enemy my enemy, as he puts it, right? Okay, makes sense. But the ensuing Predator versus Predator fight, isn't that exciting? It's kind of boring. Yeah, that's kind of the sum of it. I mean, the director here, what's his name here? Nimród Antal, clearly of Scandinavian descent. He is not that great. Nor has he done a lot of movies since this one. Which doesn't shock me. He's done some Metallica work, which doesn't surprise me. I feel like he's a music video guy.
Yeah, I'm
getting that impression.
Pretty much. But even that wasn't that much.
So that was the potential of what to do here. Was this what it builds up to? And instead, I mean, the one thing I do like about the final fight with Adrien Brody is I do like the idea, outside of him quoting lines from the first movie when he's covered in mud, I do like him setting fire to everything around the Predator to obscure his vision. That's actually a fun idea. That's using the rules and playing it against them.
No, it's a neat touch of using the environment, and I think it's one of the few moments in the later film that harkens back to early on with the survival stuff of what are we learning about this planet? What can we?
Because actually, after the first time they encounter them, when they follow the trail back after those alien dogs attack them, and they find the tied up Predator. Is it Ali goes down in this scene? I think it is. He gets shot, and then they run away, and like Isabel's like, "You led us into that. You intentionally used us as bait because you wanted to see who we're fighting." He's like, "No, we learned a lot there. We learned there's 3 of them. We learned to use projectiles. We learned they're bigger than we are." Like, and he lists all these details that they've learned, and I'm like, okay, I like, because again, going back to the idea of them like work banding together and using all their different skill sets to win. I feel like that's maybe what it's missing, is that it feels like it should be more proactive. And don't get me wrong, like, should they be more proactive than the team in the first movie? I mean, not really necessarily, but just to make the movie different, like them actually coming up with a plan.
I think they should be a bit more desperate than the movie in than the team in the first movie, because the team in the first movie, like, oh, okay, sure, there's something in the jungle, let's go check it out, right? Whereas here it's, okay, we're on an alien planet, we need to get home, we need to escape. So I feel like they should be more proactive in that sense of, okay, they need to do something.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of little moments as well. Like I said, the fact that they've got the minigun there to harken back to the first one, they fall off like the edge of a waterfall at one point, and I'm like, I feel there's lots of little moments that are just meant to be like, hey, remember this in Predator? Remember this moment in Predator? There's all these little references visually to call back to it.
Kind of. It almost reminds me of like a prequel, right? Of, hey, look where this is going. Like, it's one of those sort of references that these feel like.
Oh, this is still better than Star Wars prequels, just for the record.
Not disputing that. That wasn't the only type of prequel I was referring to.
That's what I thought of, though, because that's what that does.
I mean,
that's what that
does.
Yeah,
it does.
I mean, I perked up a little bit when Isabel's like, when she sees the Predator, she recognizes something, and then later on, like, he asks her about it, and she's like, no, 87. Like, and she talks about the first movie, and now this is like a myth that's been passed down, in the various, like, military services about this thing that happened in 87.
Which is something we saw back in Predator 2. Like, that was long established, because that was a there was a file and a record of this.
Which is a cool idea.
Operation.
That makes sense to me, and it's fun. Interestingly, I was looking up. I noticed some faces in the credits here that weren't you don't see in the movie because they're playing the Predators. Brian Steele, who's two of the villain Predators. He played the robot in Lost in Space. I was wondering what I knew his photo from in the IMDb list. That's what it was from. And then the classic Predator is played by Derek Mears, who you do actually see a lot of in other movies. He was in Twin Peaks this last season. He was recently in one of the Hatchet movies that me and Tim did. He's an actor who gets around. He played Jason in one of the newer Friday the 13th, probably the remake.
He was a Kree in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well.
You're right. In fact, you can kind of he's just painted blue in that one, so you can kind of recognize him.
Yeah. In fact, I think I remember us talking about that when we were watching that episode, because like, hey, we just saw him.
But he's the classic Predator, in this, which is cool. So let's talk about Topher Grace, who turns out to be a serial killer. By the time we get to the end. Sure.
I mean, I feel like it's just an unnecessary twist for the sake of having something extra going on.
I kind of rolled my eyes because I felt like it was like, man is the real monster. Man is the real evil.
Yeah. But do you know why that doesn't work here? Because the Predators are sentient, thinking beings. They are equivalent to man. It's not like, usually when you do that, what you're against is a beast of some sort. It's nature. It's not something that it's control. Like Alien. It's instinct.
They're just animals acting out in their nature.
Whereas Predator is another man.
It's another intelligent being. Arguably more intelligent. And so here's the thing though, right? So he's a serial killer. Everyone who's been picked is a killer of some kind. And the worst of the worst, and that's why they've been picked for this. Not only because they have combat skills in most cases, but because they presumably, in the Predator's eyes, deserve to die. And I feel like that's where you could have had a really good central story to this movie, where the point is that one or two of them prove that they're worthy of not dying. That they're not, like... Because, I mean, Walton Goggins from the start, it's like, no, he deserves to die. Like, there's a conversation in this scene where he says that 5 o'clock is bitch raping time. That is a direct quote from that character. He is clearly a lost cause from the get-go. And a lot of those kind of feel that way too. But, like, having some of them kind of saying, no, there's a reason why, like, we can grow and blah, blah. And you basically have a film about humanity and about change and growth and atonement.
Especially like the military ones, right? Like, they feel like, no, they were doing it with like some form of honor. They were doing it for reasons beyond just they wanted to kill things.
Points out though, you guys get to pretend that you don't like it because you do it for country, and I'm wondering if they actually do kind of like it deep down, and that's why. Yeah.
Or maybe, but I think there's no way for the predators to know that when they're
No,
picking
that's
them,
what I'm saying.
right?
No, I think they do. I think that's why
Okay.
everyone here is picked. I think everyone here, in some way, is at least dedicated enough to what they're doing. Like, the Yakuza guy is clearly, dedicated,
Yeah.
cartel guy. Like that, I feel like they're all into it. Now, here's the problem with this theory, of course, is that the film doesn't really give us enough of all these characters to really know this about them. I'm just kind of making a bit of a leap here based on the two main characters
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
talk about this. But I'm taking that leap because I feel like that's kind of the point. I will say I did. I mean, even though again it's kind of harping on the Billy scene from the first one because he stands back to fight, mano a mano with the Predator. I do actually
Mm.
kind of like the Yakuza guy having the katana fight.
Going out
Yeah,
with the
taking
sword.
his top
Yeah.
off and getting the katana out and having a duel in the long grass. I actually like that scene. I think I like it a lot because he actually succeeds. I mean, he dies as well, but they both go down. He does go out as like a warrior.
Also, it's just a little
Yeah,
bit different, right? Going in with a sword compared to what we, fists or
yeah, and
guns, right?
arguably it's probably the best action scene in the movie in terms of how it's shot.
Yeah, I think it's actually shot quite simply. I think it's well
Yeah, that's
choreographed more
fair,
than
but
anything.
it's not cutting around too quick, so therefore it looks better than the rest of the action for the most part.
It does, yeah.
Because sadly, the action is the worst stuff in this, probably. Action and characters is where it kind of falls down.
Yeah.
The ideas are pretty solid. Predator designs are fine. Planet's cool enough. I think by the end, though, I was kind of like, I don't know if I wanted another jungle movie. I feel like I get why you want to do it to harken back to the first one, but I feel like the fun of the Predators, like to every time put them in a new location. I'm excited. I'm excited the new
Yeah.
one's going to be in like a suburbs because that's like, again very different from the city.
No, I agree. I feel like the benefit of, okay, we're doing an alien planet is do something wacky with the planet, right?
Yeah, because
You have a little bit of wildlife and,
some of my
the,
favorite
the
stuff early on
dogs.
with the planet is when he mentions the sun's not moved, and I'm like, that's really weird. Even for an alien planet, that's weird.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
crazy long day,
And then
right?
the fact that they look up in the sky and there's like nothing. There's like three planets in the sky. It's like shit. We're not even close to home. This is completely different.
Yeah. So it kind of just being, oh, it's a jungle, kind of takes away from that. It makes it feel just too
Yeah, it kind of
recognizable.
does.
It's not. It doesn't go different enough with the jungle elements.
Honestly,
if
as simple as
you
this
insist on being a
sounds,
jungle,
change the color of it. Make it a blue jungle.
would
As
help.
simple as that is, it probably would help just a little bit, just to make it feel a bit more alien. Because as it is,
Yeah.
outside of when they get to the old crash ship or whatever that Laurence Fishburne's living in, outside of that, there's like one plant, a couple of alien dog things. Oh, actually, the more like the tall alien they killed, it's not a predator. I'm pretty sure that is a homage, and this is a cool little reference. I'm pretty sure that was the original design of the Predator before they made the first movie, and they decided it was
Oh, fair enough.
terrible, and they got Stan Winston. They got him in because Arnold was friends with Stan Winston from Terminator. And said, "Stan, come and save the monster in this movie," and he designed the Predator. So that's fun.
Fair
That's
enough.
fun.
That's cool.
Also, a bit of trivia. Apparently, Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to play the Predator in the first one, and I learned a weird bit of movie myth trivia this week.
Go
So
on.
we don't know if this is true, right? This, but I hope it's true. I really hope it's true. So they wanted to do the camouflage thing, right, with the cloaking tech. So they had this ridiculous looking tall
Sure.
alien thing that you see in this one, give or take, and they had a green suit version of it. Well, actually, no, sorry, it wasn't green because of the jungle. I think it was red because that was the color that was different from everything else.
Yeah.
And the rumor is that Jean-Claude Van Damme saw the red suit and just thought that was the alien, and thought it was going to be terrible and pulled out.
God, I
That's
hope
really
that's true.
funny. If that's true, that's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it is.
it comes from a time period where obviously I don't think like green screen and blue screen were as big or as oftenly used.
No,
I mean,
probably
keying was
not.
a thing, but red was such a weird color to key in because red's usually the opposite of what you key in.
Yeah, you don't
You use
red
yellow
very
more than
often.
you use red, but even then, green and blue are the two you use all the time.
Yeah, but in a jungle, yellow is
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
still
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
similar.
All those colors are pretty similar. You have to use red. But that, fun bit of trivia that I found out this week that I mean it may just be a myth, but I hope it's true. Yeah,
But
that's a
let's hope not.
fantastic
Yeah.
myth. So that's there. But no, I like the Yakuza fight. I do like that it.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because I feel like this is like the opposite of what I'm saying, where I wanted to do different things. But at least if it's doing like a straight up Predator movie in the jungle, I do like that it does keep it fairly tight in terms of what it's trying. It's just a case of the characters aren't interested enough and the action's not good enough to actually sell it. And I think the ending's kind of like, so you have your two survivors left there at the end, and they see more parachutes coming in, and it's like, let's find a way off this planet. Cut to black, and I'm like, eh. Is it, I'm not that satisfied. Do you know what I think it is? I think here's a big thing, right? In the first movie, by the time Arnold's fighting the Predator, it feels personal. Like he's got a grudge with this one specific Predator. It feels like there's a connection there between them. I don't feel that there's a genuine vendetta or like need for revenge against any of these three Predators that are hunting them.
Well, there isn't. It's all just it's
Yeah, it's
just
just
escape,
escape.
isn't it?
But when he's fighting the Predator at the end, there's the same. The build up's not there. There's not that like, all right, you've pissed me off, and I need to prove that I can do this, not just to survive, but to actually face you like a worldly
Yeah, that's
a
just
worldly
not part
warrior.
of it
Like,
at
it's
all.
just kind of gone, and there's no like emotion in it. And I don't really care about the characters when they die. I don't really care about the predators when they die.
I think said, oh, there's no emotion in it. I think that's true, but I don't think it has to be specific. You're referring to making it personal. And I feel like if it was the emotion, if it was desperate of okay, I've got to beat you, not to prove anything, but just to survive. If I really felt that and believed it, that'd be fine. But I don't. Again, it's another one where
Okay,
all
sure. No,
movies
I
it's
get
like,
what you're
oh, here's
saying. It doesn't
another
have to necessarily
obstacle.
be personal. The opposite is that, well, not the opposite, but the alternative is that you can make the predator such a threat and have such presence that he's this constant like hurdle to get past. He's this wall to freedom that they have to get through him to survive.
Yeah,
And they tell us that.
yeah, but I don't believe it. Like they don't show me enough to get that. Like I say, they tell us that's the case, but it
No,
doesn't feel
and
like
obviously,
it.
and again, we say it doesn't feel like it. It's a fact that it is that because they're literally in the way of freedom. They are. No, you can't dispute that. What we're saying is that you don't feel the threat. You don't feel the build up to the presence. There's no, and it's almost like maybe just having three predators was just a bad idea. Like maybe just having one is more a bit more personal, a bit more menacing, a bit scarier.
Yeah, maybe you need to go more or less. Three's this weird number, right? Where you need like a lot. Like you need like, okay, here's 20
Yeah.
of them
Uh,
to be like a little
it,
tribe
it,
almost, or
but
okay,
if you have
one
like
to
20 of
personal.
them, then I feel like that doesn't work either because there's too many. You can't really buy that they'd survive at all. I feel like what you'd
Mm.
have to do is instead of them being there for being hunted, or maybe that's why they're originally there, but something happens. Like he mentioned a blood feud. What if there was literally a predator versus predator war going on this planet, and they weren't even caring about the humans, and the humans were just trying to navigate through this war to like get out somehow. But obviously, whenever a predator sees them, they're going to go for them. They're going to just ignore them and let them past, right? But the
Yeah.
idea that there's like hundreds, if not thousands, of predators, but the idea is that they're fighting each other, and that's why the humans have got a chance because they're too busy dealing with
Mm.
that as opposed to just hunting them. I feel like if you have 20 predators hunting a band of humans, they're just screwed. I don't buy that they could survive.
In general, I'd probably agree. I think some of the stuff that if it were me that were doing it is okay. Finally, they kind of almost challenged them to one on one at the end, and maybe the others kind of respect that. Okay, they won the duel, they get to go.
Yeah,
That kind of for me, that kind of sits with Predator lore, at least in my head from what
no,
I've
it
seen,
does.
is of just that respect to the fight,
Yeah,
respect to the
that's the thing
warrior.
though. What I was saying earlier though is I don't feel like the predators in this movie that this bigger version. Maybe that's part of the lore here is that this bigger version that the classic predator's feuding with. Maybe, and I don't mean it's the exact same predator, of course. I just mean it's just that style.
That style, yeah.
Maybe they are ones without honor. Maybe that's kind of the point. Is they're worse.
Well, maybe.
Which is a fine idea.
I don't really feel that though, do you? You don't feel that all these are
No,
definitely
they don't
worse.
really teach us that in the film. It seems more arbitrary than that.
Yeah.
Which whatever, but I don't know. It's definitely murkier than I remember. I remember having a decent enough time when I went to see it. Watching it again,
Not aged as
watching
well.
it again now, it's kind of like, okay, it's fine. It like I say, I think your direct to video sequel just with a bigger budget is kind of a
Yeah.
appropriate analogy here, because it's it's a fine afternoon time waster, but it's never up to the standard of Predator 1 and 2.
No, no,
Because
no,
I
not at
remember
all.
when this came out, those people who legitimately said this is way better than Predator 2, and
I will fight those people in the
I
streets.
cannot disagree with that more. I think Predator 2 has way more charm and character than this does. And it may be cheesy in places, but I still, Danny Glover being pissed that his partners are being killed off and wanting revenge is
It's
it's
got
got a bit
some
of heart,
heart
and
to
it's
it.
got Gary Busey in it for a start. Which, by the way, the new one's got Jake Busey in it, his son. I cannot wait for that glory.
I really hope
So
he's
do
actually
I.
playing his
Really do.
son.
He wants revenge because his dad get cut in half in Predator 2.
It's so easy. Why wouldn't you do this? Like, he learned what happened to his dad, and then he's been sucked into this world now for his life. He's been in on this, and been like, okay, I'm waiting for
Yeah,
the bastards.
like I say, I'm looking forward to the Predator, even though the Predator, it's not doing what I do want from the franchise. What I really want is a movie where the humans are hunting the predators. I want, and not in the same way. I don't mean like, oh, they get a predator in the jungle and they're hunting the predator. I don't mean that.
Just more like, okay, no, someone's here. We've got to go and
Yeah,
take it
they're going
out.
after the predators, potentially. That said, though, I do always enjoy the idea of a predator and a human teaming up against something, xenomorph or otherwise. But,
Yeah, yeah. I'll be honest, like, I'm not super excited about the Predator at the minute. The
I
trailers
don't
haven't
care,
filled me
Shane
with
Black. I
much
don't care.
confidence. That's the only thing going for it for me right now is Shane Black's
Yeah,
pretty good.
filmmaker over trailer any day of the week. Shane
No,
Black's
that's fair.
making it. I don't care what the trailers look like. I'm in. Obviously, once I see it, maybe it'll feel different. I do feel like Shane Black's humor though doesn't translate that well to trailers. Maybe a bit more for like the Nice Guys because that was a straight up comedy. I feel like for something like Predator, I don't think his dialogue translates to a trailer. It feels almost too cringy in a trailer because it's cut up.
That might be
I
true.
think it'll play fine in the movie, but uh,
I
yeah.
hope so.
He also made the best Iron Man movie in Iron Man 3. I'll also fight anyone who says otherwise. Uh,
Sorry, I got you back on that one.
yes, here's opinions. Uh, so yeah, I mean, the cast are fine for the most part. Like, they kind of show up and do their job. I mean, Walton Goggins stands out because he's just having the most ridiculous fun with his evil character.
Yeah,
I
yeah. Danny Trejo's just playing himself.
pretty much. And here's another thing. Yeah, they have this scene where Danny Trejo gets killed. I think he's the first one to go down, and his body is
Yeah.
like propped up, and the Predator does this thing where he's faking the voice to lure them in, and I felt like there was more to do with that.
Yeah, you had the one character, was it
Yeah.
Isabel who saw it? I can't remember now. Who was like, oh, that was, she knew what was happening. And then we never really went back to it. It more felt like, okay, that's a reference of, oh yeah, hey, remember they
Yeah,
can
it
do
never
that.
played into the movie later on. I felt like this is your Chekhov's gun. You set this up because it's going to be useful later, or you're going to use it as a scare later. Because maybe we'll forget about it and then they'll do it and we'll go, oh shit, they set that up. We should have known that was coming. Like something like that.
Yeah.
Or trick is the opposite way and subvert it. Whatever you're going to do with it, but it felt like they set that up and then it never really was brought up again. Also,
I'm blanking. Did they use the poison plant
just a
much?
killer. He used it to paralyze Isabel.
Yeah, that's it. I did think that was all underwhelming. I thought I expected, when it was established at the start, I was like, okay, that's going
Yeah,
to be a big
well, that was the
to
thing. That
take
was all
down
the
a
setup
predator.
that we're supposed to cheer when Adrien Brody didn't leave on the ship. He came back because that was his whole thing, is that he wouldn't come back for anyone,
Yeah.
but he chose to come back and he ended up saving her. But it was just kind of like, okay, sure.
Yeah, but I was like, okay, you use that on a predator, right? You
Uh-huh.
cut your blade in that or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Imagine having a predator paralyzed, like, and the opportunity that would then grant you.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine that poison on the katana.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Possibilities.
Set things up. It isn't. They just don't do enough, I guess. They don't do
Yeah.
enough. I mean, I do like that it. I like that it doesn't. like I kind of like that it doesn't take it takes itself serious enough. Arguably too seriously though when I think about it.
I think
Uh,
it does. Yeah, I don't think there's enough humor in there. Like not like he oh laughs, but just moments of brevity.
it's not even. I mean, obviously the first movie had some brevity, but I feel like it's just lacking character. That's the biggest thing it's lacking. Is just any sense of character.
Well, that's it. I think all the character, as much as we're saying, oh, they're all these different culture clash, they're kind of all very similar and the same at its
No,
core of what the
I don't even
characters.
just mean the
I think that's
characters
just
themselves.
poor
I mean the
dialogue.
movie itself is lacking character.
Okay, okay, I'm with it. I'm just saying. I think here I think the characters themselves are
Oh no,
too
I agree with that. That just wasn't the point I
flat,
was making.
right?
Uh,
Right. No, that's
no,
fair.
the movie just doesn't have character. Whereas Predator has so much character, um, and it's hard to
Mm.
replicate that. And I think part of it is just it's a weird hodgepodge of a cast. And there's some good actors in there. It's just a really bizarre thing. And again, going back to Laurence Fishburne, there's a whole thing where okay, he's got predator tech. He's been cloaking himself and he's surviving. And it turns out he's probably a cannibal. He's probably been killing other people and eating them. He's got an imaginary friend that he talks to. And then it's all kind of over after like 5 minutes, where everyone's like raced out. And the poor Russian dude sacrificed himself to
Yeah.
save the serial killer. Uh, most sympathetic man in the whole movie is Nikolai.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie's kind of frustrating when I think about it. Just it's frustrating in that it's so easy to see all the elements that could make this really good, and it just isn't.
Mm. Yeah.
That's worse than it just being a mess. Like it annoys me that I can see it. I can see the version of this that's
Mm.
good.
Yeah.
Whereas AVP Requiem, there's no
Oh no, of
saving.
course not. Yeah. So it's yeah. I mean, obviously I'm hoping the Predator comes in and is at least the third best in the franchise, if not outshines 2 or 1. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it can do
Yeah.
that. I don't know. It's hard to tell from the trailers if it can, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like even the Predators themselves are not treated with the same respect in terms of filmmaking, if that makes sense. Like their big reveal isn't really treated like that huge a moment. It's almost like, oh, you know what a Predator is. There's no point in building up to it in the same way that because the first
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
And even the second movie, to an extent, like spends time like teasing the mystery, even though you know what he looks like because you've seen a Predator already.
Yeah, you have like all the shots
Yeah,
from the vision, their point of view, and there's a little bit of that in this. I think there's maybe I can remember
yeah.
it
Here's the other weird
distinctly
thing actually is
once.
that whole Danny Trejo bit where they prop him up and they use his voice. I never, other than that moment, I never actually felt like until they got to the camp, I never actually felt they were being hunted yet. It wasn't until after that, and even then, I don't feel like they're actually being hunted through the jungle that much in the movie. It's more like they get to the ship with Laurence Fishburne, they make noise, 1 or 2 of them come, and then they run back to the main camp where the predators are living. I feel like they're almost just trespassing in their ground more than they're being hunted for the most part.
It does kind of feel that way now
Yeah.
that you mention it.
Whereas in the first movie,
Yeah.
you felt like they were constantly being stalked through the jungle. Like there was this thing in the trees that was tracking them and keeping an eye on them and waiting until they were separated and picking them off. Here it almost felt just every time someone died, it felt almost circumstantial because of the situation they were in, as opposed to
It kind of felt like you wandered into like that space that's near me. Yeah, go on then. If
yeah.
you're
Whereas
here,
in the
why
first
not?
movie, it was like a slasher movie where he would track one down who was separate from the group and kill them off, at least up until a
Yeah.
point. Until you got the final girl. The final girl being Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, but no, so yeah, so this has been a pretty negative discussion, and it's not the worst thing ever by any means. It's a perfectly competent enough movie.
Yeah, if you stick it on, you're not gonna, it's only what, an
Yeah,
hour 40 or so. You're not gonna hate yourself for it.
yeah, but it is a little bit disappointing.
It is,
But then
yeah,
again, Aliens
definitely.
had some disappointing movies, so why not? I mean, this is better than Prometheus or Alien Covenant. So that is, don't even try. Don't even try.
I'm definitely giving you Covenant. I'm just trying to think with which one I'd prefer to rewatch
I'll
between
do
this
the
and
fingering.
Prometheus. I think Prometheus is more memorable. I'd rather watch that and at least get
Mm,
something out of it.
I don't know. I don't know. But hey, that's Predators. I guess we'll rate the movie. I guess we'll rate the movie out of 10. What are you giving it?
I think I'm just gonna go with a straight five. Like it's just really average. It's like sure if it's there, but don't go out of your way.
I'll go slightly. I'll say 5.5. It has some moments.
Yeah,
It has
I'll
some
allow it.
moments. It has some nice ideas. Um, music's good enough. It's just a shame the characters are so. And it's funny because like you go back to the first film and you think, oh, these are deep characters, but I think the characters have so much charisma and they have this camaraderie, and you buy that they care about each other. You buy Arnold's sense of honor, and bless the man. Like people can give his performances, the line delivery, some shit, but that man puts a lot of emotion and expression in his face. Like you can tell, you can see what he's thinking through his eyes every time, and you can see that he's scared by whatever's hunting them, and it adds so much weight
Mm.
to what the plot of the movie is. It functions so well as a sci-fi action horror movie. This one, this feels like your slasher sequel where you've got a bunch of dull, less interesting characters who, on paper, should be pretty cool because one's a yakuza, one's a cartel member, one's a merc, one's a soldier, one's a this, one's that, one's a sniper, but
Mm.
it never really amounts to that, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5.5 for me. Oh well, that's Predators. Hey, much better than AVP movies. Give it that. So that wraps up the franchise then. I mean, it's probably quite obvious how we'd rank them, but since it's the end of the franchise and before the Predator hits, might as well just quickly rank them.
Sure. It's two, then one, then
Yeah,
I suppose this because it's better than AVP and it's sure as shit better than AVP
absolutely.
Requiem.
I pretty much concur with that. Although I think one is the better film than two. I might like two more though.
Objectively, one
One
might be better,
one's
but it's not.
One
It's
is by
not for
far the
me
better
though.
directed. I mean, two is directed by Stephen Hopkins. I mean, hell, I just did The Ghost in the Darkness with Matt on Overload, directed by Stephen Hopkins. He also did Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. The dude's not a good director.
No. Direction is not
Predator
something I
2
can
is
praise the second one
is the
for.
gem of his filmography. That is his best movie that I've seen.
That's
Um,
fair.
so yes, but there's something I really like about Predator 2 though.
That's it. If you tell me, okay, I only watch one Predator film again, it's gonna be
What
Predator 2. In fact, I would probably only watch Predator 2 again anyway. I don't think I'll ever bother watching Predator again. I've seen it
I
now.
know,
That's
blasphemy.
fine. I
One
don't
and
need to
two
watch it again.
are well worth rewatching. I say that to everyone.
No. One is a good film, but it's not for me. I don't really have any attachment to
I'm not
that
speaking to you. I'm speaking to everyone else. You
stuff.
watched one and two. One and two, very good. Uh, After that, you can watch Predators if you feel like having another one, and
You don't really need to.
but the Predator will hopefully be good. So that brings it out to this discussion. Of course, you can let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Of course, you can support us, support the show and the channel by heading over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Of course, over there you get some bonuses. You get these Flux reviews a week early. You get a bunch of stuff, and you can get a nice warm fuzzy feeling inside that you're supporting and helping us, and not being a predator. Don't be predators.
I don't feel like
No,
that's
don't
asking
be
too
predators.
much.
Don't be Harvey Weinstein.
Way to bring the tone down.
Hey, he's one ugly motherfucker. Where did you it from? I only made that joke because they're actually making a movie called Predator about Harvey Weinstein, which
I know,
is a fine title for it, except for the fact that I associate that title with this alien with the mask who hunts people in the jungle. But I get the title. It work on its own. It works. It's just
in context of the film industry.
In that context, it's a little bit weird. But hey, so that is Predators. So yes, thank you very much once again. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates and so on. But that is us. So thank you once again. We'll see you next time, guys. Keep watching movies. Goodbye.